You know that song by Pink, Try, where she sings, you gotta get up and try and try and try. And honestly, that mindset has carried a lot of us through life. It's like a motivational soundtrack that's been playing in the background of our minds. You get up, you try again, you keep going. And in so many areas, that's exactly what you should do. But lately, I've been noticing something. Because there's also this other idea going around, this whole let them, let me approach, where you stop trying to control other people and focus on your own response. And there's wisdom in that. But what happens when it's not about them anymore? And it's not even about what I do. What happens when it's something I just can't seem to get right? You're trying harder to forgive, trying harder not to snap at people, especially when your patience is already hanging on by a thread. Trying harder not to replay what someone said or did. Trying harder to be disciplined, spiritually consistent, emotionally steady, and still feeling like you're missing it somehow. And the worst part, it's not just frustrating, it starts to feel like failure. Like, why can't I get this right? Why does this keep coming back? And that's where I had to pause and ask myself, is the problem really that I'm not trying hard enough? Or am I trying to do something I was never meant to do in the first place? Because here's the shift. The problem isn't effort. The problem is when effort subtly turns into control. So today, my friend, I want us to slow this right down and look at what Scripture actually shows us about obedience, trust, and deliverance. Because the Bible never tells us to stop obeying, but it also never asks us to become our own deliverers. We're going to walk through David's life, almost like we're sitting together and reading it, and we are going to see how he acts, moves, makes decisions, but refuses to take control of what only God can do. And if you've been trying to get something right and feel like you are failing at it, then this episode is for you. Let me welcome you into the Jules4Jesus Podcast. This is a space where we take faith seriously, but we don't take ourselves too seriously. It's real life, real faith, usually somewhere between trying to hold it all together and realizing that we are not quite getting it right. So if that's where you find yourself today, you are very much in the right place. Because today, we're going to talk about what happens when trying harder isn't actually helping and what it looks like not to let them, not to let me, but to let Him. So earlier this week, someone shared a quote about trying harder and then trying even harder. And it stayed with me, not because it motivated me, but because it started exposing something in me. Because when something isn't working in my life, my instinct isn't to pause, it's to push. Try harder, fix it, get it right. And that works. Until it doesn't. Because there are certain things that don't respond to willpower, like anger, like bitterness, like forgiveness. And that's where this becomes personal. Because when you start feeling like you are failing at something that actually matters to God, then pressure to fix it yourself becomes even stronger. And if I'm honest, that's where I found myself. Trying harder, not because I'm disciplined, but because I don't want to fail. And that's when this picture came to mind. It's like being in the ocean. When you feel like you are going under, your instinct is to fight, to kick, to splash, to try and overpower the water. But often, that struggling doesn't save you. It simply exhausts you. And sometimes the thing that actually keeps you afloat is not fighting harder, but learning to stop the panic long enough to let the water hold you. Now, let me just say this clearly before we go any further. This is not about doing nothing. This is not about avoiding responsibility. This is about something much more precise. Obey God, but don't try to replace Him. And you see this so clearly in David's life. If you go to 1 Samuel, you'll see that for about 8 chapters, Saul is hunting David. David is running for his life. But notice this, he's not passive. He's thinking, he's moving, he's making decisions. But then, in the middle of it all, he gets 2 opportunities to end the whole situation himself. And that's where everything shifts. Because now it's no longer just about survival. It's about who he trusts as his deliverer. We find the first chance for David to kill his enemy Saul in 1 Samuel 24. So David is hiding in a cave. Saul walks in, completely vulnerable. David's men immediately say, "This is your moment." And if we are honest, we'd probably say the same. But David pauses. Instead of killing Saul, he merely cuts off a piece of his robe. And afterwards he says, "May the Lord be the judge between you and me." In other words, I'm not stepping into God's role here. Saul responds emotionally. He says all the right things, but nothing actually changes. Now David gets a second opportunity to kill Saul, which we find in 1 Samuel 26. David is still in the wilderness. He goes down at night with Abishai, and scripture tells us that the Lord causes a deep sleep to fall over Saul and his entire army. And there it is again, another opportunity. Saul's spear is right there, and Abishai says, "Today God has delivered your enemy into your hands. Let me strike him." And this is where David gives us the line that defines everything. He says, "As surely as the Lord lives, the Lord himself will strike him, or his time will come. But the Lord forbid that I should lay a hand on the Lord's anointed." Do you see what's happening here, my friend? David's not denying the opportunity. He's discerning the purpose of it. Not control, not self-deliverance, trust. So he sends in Abishai with an instruction to just take Saul's spear and then return, as proof, not as a weapon, and then they leave. Later on he says to Saul, "The Lord delivered you into my hands today, but I would not lay a hand on you. May the Lord deliver me from all trouble." And then something very powerful actually happens. David walks away. Saul goes home, and they never meet again. So again, in this situation, God delivers David. David doesn't deliver himself. And once you see that, my friend, you start seeing it everywhere in Scripture. It's not just David, it's a pattern. Psalm 78 describes God like a shepherd. He led his people like sheep through the wilderness. He guided them safely so they were unafraid. The sea engulfed their enemies. God leads, God protects, God deals with the enemy. Then Psalm 44 explains why. It was not by their sword that they won the land, but by your right hand, for you loved them. And that part matters, my friend, because we act like everything depends on us. And we forget that God acts out of love, not pressure. Then in Joshua, God says plainly, "I myself will drive them out." And Jericho becomes the picture of this balance. The people obey, they walk, they follow instructions, but the power is not theirs. And then, of course, there's Gideon. God reduces Gideon's army substantially from the initial 32,000 men down to a final force of just 300 men. Why? So that no one can say, "My own strength saved me." God protects the relationship by removing self-reliance. And that is why in Zechariah we find these words of God, "Not by might, not by power, but by my Spirit." So the pattern's clear. God leads, God delivers, God gets the glory. So then, what's our role, my friend? Obedience, trust, not control. This isn't about trying less. It's about recognizing where effort shifts into becoming control. And sometimes we don't even see it because we are so focused on not failing. But maybe, and just hear me out here, maybe you are not failing. Maybe you are trying to do what only God can do. And I was thinking about this the other day because there's this whole idea going around about let them and let me, which is great. Until you realize I'm still trying to control everything in between. And that's when it hit me. Maybe I'm missing the most important part. Not just let them, not just let me, but let Him. Let Him be God. Let Him deal with what I can't fix. Let Him do what I keep trying to do myself. So here's your invitation this week, my friend. Take the thing you keep trying to get right and feel like you are failing at. And instead of pushing harder, just pause, bring it before God and ask Him, where has my effort become control? Where am I trying to rescue myself? Take control of the situation myself. Then take one step of obedience and leave the outcome with God. Because Obedience is ours. Deliverance is His. And listen, if tomorrow you find yourself trying to fix everything again, then welcome. Sometimes I only realize that I'm doing it when I'm already halfway through solving something that God never asked me to solve while making coffee before 7 a.m. And then I have to stop and go, okay, there it is again. Jules, not God. So let's be gentle with ourselves, but also honest. Floating feels unnatural at first. Trust feels so risky until you realize it's actually the safest place to be. And maybe that's the shift today. Yes, get up and try, but don't try to be God. Let Him. Because like David, we'll be able to say, you have delivered me from all my troubles. He has already won. We just have to fall into His arms and let Him. This is Jules, and I'm for Jesus, and I can't wait to chat again when you hit play on the next episode.